Bon, ça, je ne peux pas dire, hein, c'est... Oui, mais là, je suis obligé d'écarter. Ouais, comme ça. Là, je suis obligé d'écarter la machine. J'avais... J'ai pas pris du... Je suis obligé d'élargir la machine. D'élargir, en ce cas, tu ne peux pas rentrer. En tout cas, je ne peux pas rentrer. Oui, mais alors, c'est pas grave. Non, aber ihr kennt es mir nicht jetzt, wo man es dreht, mit dem Typ, das war alles bekannt, was wir da haben. Ich kann nicht jetzt den Kinder erfinden, das hätte einfach mal überlegen müssen. Ja, weil es dann klar, wo wir sind, war klar, und was wir machen, war klar. Und keiner hat gesagt, das geht nicht. Ihr könnt es jetzt nicht holen, wir sagen, das geht nicht, das geht nicht. Dann hätten wir jetzt gesagt, wir müssen das Delegé machen, aber das ist nicht wurscht. Es ist unmöglich, mich jetzt zu konfrontieren in einer Situation, dass das nicht machbar ist. Ich habe 100-mal gesagt, das ist die schwierigste Szene des Films. Überlegt euch was. Und ihr habt sich offenbar nichts überlegt.
Okay, I mean, I showed that mostly because it was funny. But also, to illustrate, sort of, okay, my point is that I think that this is really the education of Georges Laurent and the cinematic techniques of Michel Haneke. I think that by the end of the film, and I'll explain what this means when you see the final scene, Georges Laurent, the fictional character, learns to frame his life with the same kinds of static, almost surveillance camera shots that Haneke uses throughout this film. So I want to say, yes, on some level, George is sending the tapes to himself, and on some level, yes, Haneke is sending the tapes, but really it's not anybody sending the tapes, it's the reception end that makes it. And let me explain, I'm going to explain this by going through the 5 tapes and then the flashback sequences that they prompt. The first tape, and I made the mistake in my intro to film class, I showed the opening sequence, which is like a 10-minute long shot of just the front of the house, and said, you should watch this, it's a great thriller. But it becomes one after that. But the first tape is really just this shot of the front of the house that the Laurents live in, taken from that position that we've already seen, and they're watching it, and of course they don't know who sent it. It appeared mysteriously, and it completely unsettles them. And I think would unsettle anybody. But when I thought about what the tape actually shows, is nothing that is not of access to anybody. The house is situated on the corner of the Rue des Iris. Of course, ironically named, that refers to an iris, the membrane of the camera, or an eye, so not selected at all by chance. And if you want to find out where this location is, you can simply go to Google Maps, type in the name of the street, and it flew me from Crittenden, Kentucky, straight over to Paris. And then here in the circle is the house where the location of the actual filming. And of course, you just go down the street view and can get approximately the same perspective that was on the film version. In fact, you can even get up a lot closer if you zoom in a bit and even peek in the window. In fact, I think that whoever actually lives there is actually working at a desk right there. So on the open internet, you can see actually more than you could see in the videotape being sent. And indeed, and this is where it actually does get a little ironic, and very ironic, it links you, if you go again to the Google Maps for this particular address, it links you to a series of pictures that have been taken there, including this one, somebody's Flickr feed taken called Cachet, Rue des Iris, Paris 2007. And you can not only see the same exact view from the videotape, but you can comment on it. Like this guy says, "Oh my God, seriously, one of my dreams is going to that place." So the point is, right? The point is not, well, I guess the point is, microphone, sorry. I guess the point is that the kinds of things shown in these videotapes are the kinds of things that are open to everybody. That the real resident of that house is being just as surveilled as Georges Laurent. I admit that makes a big difference between whether somebody is mysteriously dropping the tapes off or whether it's just the Google Maps van going down the street taking a picture. But nevertheless, the actual physical act of being seen is as true in real life as it is in the film. So this is back to Haneke's original here. From that, we have that sort of unsettling. Now, to get into, and I'll get back to the videotapes in a moment with the second videotape that the first flashback comes. But the interior, notice the exterior, again, this place is very carefully chosen, not just because of the overly symbolic street name, but notice how this overgrown bush kind of resists penetration, right? This house sort of is clearly, it's not just sort of normally closed off, it's completely closed off to being in. On the inside, on the other hand, and no videotape pictures come from the interior. We have, again, a very carefully constructed interior. And I was realizing as I was putting this together, I have an incredible sense of the space of this apartment as it's sort of explored so thoroughly. Half of it is a sort of a living room area, which, as in all of Haneke's films, has a nice television front and center. That TV almost becomes a character as much as anything else. The Laurents, here pictured, never look at the TV unless it's one of the videotapes being sent to them. And the TV is, again, symbolically usually showing scenes of war and violence from the Middle East, sort of conflating Algeria with sort of modern wars and so on. But what I think is more interesting is, and I also notice, how big their home video collection is. I'll come back to that later on. Their dining room, excuse me, their dining room is lined with books, which, again, not at all by accident, clearly echoes the set of George's literary talk show, right? So clearly we're supposed to see the public George and the private George as occupying two spaces that can be linked, and I think, again, I want to anticipate my argument, become increasingly linked at the end of the film as George learns to see his own life as potentially being surveilled and therefore lives life sort of in public. Now we'll get into the second video. Now, the second video, I'm not going to show, I'm going to show this in a moment. The second video repeats basically the perspective of the first video, but it's at night. And so it's, again, the front of the house. But what becomes interesting here, the second video is accompanied by a drawing, which actually no critics that I know of have commented on the fact that the drawings from this film are clearly the work of a child. And while the videos come from the present, the drawings come from the past, because this depicts an incident that we'll see remembered in a moment. It gets too dark to see there, but to be clear on the clip, of perhaps some sort of blood appearing on, this turns out to be Majid, we later learned that it's Majid, his mouth. That prompts this memory. And I want to pay attention to a couple of things in this scene. The first, the first thing is a clip of approximately a minute and a half long. Pay attention to the cameras that are everywhere here and throughout the film. And second thing, look at the point of view shot that comes up, and then think where the motivation, where these different images come from and how they blend together. So here then is, and I began this a little bit earlier, I began this in his talk show sense. He's going to walk out and then he's going to hear about the tape that's going to prompt the memory. I don't have the image here, so I've got to kind of crane view. So this is still relatively early in the film. This is the wrap up the second tape.
¿De qué se titula la video?